Thank you for joining our Tech Talk today. I'm the producer, Lance Hart. We're going to be talking about breaking down silos, the power of integrating UCaaS and CCaaS. And as always, I have Justin Rice and John Lloyd. Justin, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Lance. John, we're here once again to talk about digital workplace, the evolution thereof. I kind of want to level set for today and kind of talk through the evolution of what we knew as PBXs, the UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS, all of those things, and just see really what we're seeing with our customers and really relate that back to what CBTS is doing to support our customers. I mean, you and I have been around the telephony space for a long time, really most of our careers. And back whenever we had TDM PBXs and then VoIP PBXs and so on and so forth. How excited are you to see the evolution to what now we call digital workplace?
So on one side, I'm wildly excited to just see what used to be, a hunt group and what it's become, the way that voice isn't just, reactive people calling you, but a real monetization, revenue driving force inside of organizations. On the other side, fax will not go away. And that drives me nuts. It is so annoying. Here we are like 30 years after fax was dead and it's still not dead. And we still have to solve for it. So wildly excited about what this platform and space has become. Annoyed that fax is still a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you. And just seeing, how we define digital workplace is really that marrying what we knew as collab telephony platforms with, call it, the tools and processes that employees use to communicate with each other and their customers. I think that's what we'll dive into today a little bit. You and I were talking before the show about what Gartner is kind of saying around customers who buy multiple platforms versus one platform. What do you see in the industry?
Yeah, so this started, I want to say probably 6 years ago, where prior to that, I bought a box, right? I bought a PBX. I put it in my environment. I networked multiple sites off of it. And that was my PBX. It was my voice. And then if I wanted a contact center, I bought the additional capability. So if I put in a Avaya PBX in, I bought an Avaya Contact Center. If I put in a Cisco PBX, I bought a Cisco Contact Center. It was just an extension of the existing server, additional features, software package, etc. What started to transition was the CCaaS, right? The contact center as a service. These cloud-based providers, your Five9s of the world, Genesys, NICE, there's been some consolidation in the space, but this concept of these aren't the same. The use case for voice as a enterprise solution and the use case for a contact center aren't the same. So they don't need to be married. They don't need to be tied together. And we've seen that obviously hold true. Then the PBXs have left the network and that's gone to UCaaS, right? So the Unified Communications as a Service. And that's what's held true for the last 5 years is my UCaaS is over here. My CCaaS is over here. They're both cloud-based. They can talk to each other. They can talk to our agents. You can use soft phones, and the world was great. What started to shift post-COVID, or as COVID happened and people coming back in, people have started to realize, enterprises going, well, hold on. If those two didn't need to be married, do I need one voice solution, one size fits all? And that has shifted significantly. I might be a user that only works out of my laptop from home or a laptop from the office, and I take inbound calls. It's my DID, and that's it. And I'm in Microsoft Teams all day. It's my chat, it's my email, it's my co-pilot. So just add a phone number. That's what I call identity-based UCaaS, right? The concept of I'm a user, I want to make and receive phone calls. Then there's enterprise-based UCaaS, which is there's hardware. It's survivable. Not to say Microsoft doesn't have survivable gateway. They do. But I mean, this pure stack play. And we see a lot of Cisco. I want the phone to be made, the physical hardware to be made by the telephony provider. I want to be able to have the edge router made, right, by the telephony provider. And so the new frontier, what Gartner is saying is people are going to buy telephony solutions that meet the needs of their individual business units, not just the business.
No, I think you're right. I mean, the way I like to think about it and how I talk to customers is as a consumer, we're conditioned to utilize multiple apps for different functions, right? And I think we're really seeing, and I think it validates kind of what Gartner is saying, is the consumerization of enterprise platforms, meaning as an enterprise user, I want the thing that's going to help me do my job the best. And as a consumer, I'm used to using multiple apps for that very reason.
Think about it this way. What we see a lot in the contact center space was in the past, you had a little bit of capability inside of your UCaaS, think hunt groups, weighted hunt groups, auto attendance, and some call reporting.
Yep.
If that didn't meet your need, you had to go and buy a CCaaS platform at $180, $250 a month per agent.
Yeah.
There was basically a scooter or a Ferrari.
Yep.
That's a real challenge because we work with a large retail customer, 800 sites across the country. And we delivered, for them, it was Five9 Contact Center met their needs. But the challenge was their contact center for interacting with customers, questions about e-com orders, right? That was the big Five9, needed all the bells and whistles and wallboarding and features. Then they had a contact center that was like store operations. When a store manager, the HVAC wasn't working, would call into.
Yeah.
Still needed to get that call answered, still wanted reporting on it, but didn't need workforce automation and optimization and AI and all of that.
Right.
And so we kind of really started to focus on, I always say there's more Toyotas on the road than there are Ferraris. And we built this CXsync platform to take out to our customers, which was really catered towards that contact center space that doesn't need to be Cisco Webex calling or Five9, these great platforms that are industry leaders. But again, if I can use different telephony platforms, Microsoft Teams Voice, Cisco Webex calling to meet my business unit needs, I can deliver multiple contact centers.
Same with the contact center. Yeah. I mean, you and I were out at a healthcare customer call a few weeks ago, and I think we have like 25,000 endpoints that we manage for them. And they're coming to us and saying, listen, the needs of the needs of a healthcare organization vary wildly. And I need to have a platform, I need to have a provider that can kind of serve the different needs of my business units, regardless of what the platform is. And I think you've seen that in a lot of your customers.
People would come out of college, they were PBX admins, or they got trained through their business from the time they were 25 to the day they retired, they were the phone person, right? That doesn't exist anymore. There is definitely a skills gap and a shortage. And that creates this need for a managed service provider, because the idea of going and buying, one of these IP intellectual property players and going, just send me a phone, I'll configure the call flow myself. Like, those days are done. You need support. You need help. You need 24/7 support, moves, adds, changes. And so that's the role that we play for our customers. But if we're going to help build this best of breed platform, maybe it's Cisco over here, Microsoft over here, Five9 over here, Cisco back again over here. Not only do you need a partner like CBTS that's helping manage all of that, you need somebody that's tying it together from a telephony standpoint, right?
That's right. Yep.
And I want to be able to extension dial between the two platforms. So I want to 4-digit dial you. I don't care if you're on Microsoft and I'm on Cisco. Or I'm a contact center agent and I'm logged into the web app on Cisco Webex calling, and I need to transfer that call to you who's not a member of the contact center. How does all of this interact? And so one of the things that we did and our team did a phenomenal job of was building this idea of a ubiquitous SIP core. So it's, instead of just hosted voice or UCaaS, we built an enterprise session border controller as a service where we can tie together your on-prem PBX as you migrate to the cloud. We can tie together multiple voice technologies, multiple offerings, move into the platform space. We can tie all of that together with one common dial plan, one common bill for the PSTN connectivity, which is always going to be cheaper than getting it from the OEM CCaaS provider. So it's been a great tool to allow enterprises to move into this idea of best solution for best problem.
Yeah. My very first job in my professional career was a voice engineer, and all those things you mentioned around, do you want to have extension dialing? What's your intra-office capabilities? All of those things, those are still questions you have to ask. So while the platform may make it seem ubiquitous and easy, there's still a lot of nuance in how you deploy these things, which I think is where you're coming with the voice platform. Is you kind of need an expert who speaks the world of the past, but how does that integrate into the platform of the future?
To me, there's two things that have changed significantly. I already mentioned the labor shortage. So you used to, okay, I know Avaya or I know Cisco.
Yep.
Now go find somebody that knows Microsoft Voice, which is a relatively young platform, great in the enterprise, but still, skill set, it's younger. Go and find somebody that knows Cisco Voice. Cisco Call Manager and Cisco Webex Calling that you're migrating to, and somebody that knows Five9 Contact Center, and somebody that knows Genesis Contact Center. That physically doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And the talent pool is getting shorter. So that's the first significant shift. The second is when you talked about, you started your career as a voice engineer, you didn't have a concern for Ray bombs or Carrier's Law,
Nope.
right? You didn't have to worry about E911. And so all of a sudden there's a whole new level of complexity, especially when you were delivering those PBXs. 99% of employees came in 5 days a week,
That's right.
sat at a desk, sat behind a physical piece of plastic. Now that doesn't exist anymore.
With the PBX in the closet.
Yeah, right. I mean, now you're talking about I can work from my cell phone. Maybe it's actually my cell phone. Maybe it's my phone system app on my cell phone. How do we track those calls? How do I deliver when somebody calls 911? How do I make sure it gets to the right place? What if my contact, there's a big contact center provider, it doesn't support, they only support E164 dialing and they don't support E911. We actually deliver that we provide the PSTN to that contact center and we deliver it for the customer. It's a large hospital. I mean, so it's obviously mission critical to be able to support that.
And to normalize those dial plans and all of those things. One thing, and maybe a little provocative topic here, is I like to think about UCaaS as how you communicate with your other employees. CCaaS is how you communicate with your customers.
Yep.
Agree, disagree?
Completely agree. There is sometimes a need for a contact center to communicate to your internal employees that doesn't need the same bells, whistles, enhancements, advancements that you do because it's not as revenue generating, right?
Yeah.
Your contact center should generate revenue, whether that is through actual new lines of business, new sales, or by protecting existing, right?
Yeah.
Helping an upset customer, building client satisfaction. So your CCaaS platform should essentially pay for itself. Internally, you might have a need for something more advanced than Hunt Group's auto attendants, but not want to pay the cost.
Yeah. The thing that I like and that I've seen of the evolution of the CCaaS platform is kind of, that omni-channel engagement with your customers. Meaning like we used to call it like 7 or 8 years ago, we were talking like about CCaaS and we would brag about the omni-channel capabilities, but they were kind of light, right? The chat, the email, all of those things. I think a lot of those CCaaS providers like a Five9 or a Cisco, they've really come into their own to truly make that an omni-channel experience.
Yeah. And it used to be like, I don't say bifurcated. Like I had to fully commit to this platform in order to do it. And I think the difference now with like Webex Connect and the CPaaS, the contact platform as a service in the world where that is going, is the idea of as you develop, your e-com platforms, as you develop your websites, embedding those tools in. And so we could literally look at a customer that it says, I do this for voice. Great. Let's talk about Cisco Webex Connect. It is a game changer in how it's attacking that CPaaS space of allowing that client interaction where maybe it starts with an AI bot, right? And that AI, the agentic AI, is solving 70% of the needs. It's creating a better customer experience, first call resolution. Now I need to quickly, when that customer's frustrated and it's not meeting their needs, escalate that to a live agent. Well, if you're an employee or a customer and you just talked for 3 minutes with a bot, didn't get it solved, and now you transfer to a live person and they have to go, hey, what were you talking about? Tempers are, right?
The sentiment analysis is not good.
Correct. So that agent needs to be presented with the history, not only of that call, but maybe previous interactions. And so it's not just about omni-channel where some generations want to still pick up the phone and call, some want to email, some want to do live chat, but it's about that 360 view of the customer experience. And that's what the platform starts to provide is as an agent, I know that you've been battling this challenge for 2 weeks. I'm going to start my conversation with you differently than this is your first time calling in. It wasn't really clear what the problem was.
Yeah.
So to your point, customer sentiment.
Well, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more about just CPaaS and defining that in a second. But before I do, I want to remind the audience, if you have a question to ask, please put it into the chat and we will respond in line within the chat.
Yeah.
So CPaaS is obviously something that continues to gain momentum. We see that, in our competitive space. We see that with our partners. Let's break that down. You just explained a little bit about how you integrate into e-com platform. Let's break that elementary style. What is CPaaS? Let's define it in your words.
So to me, it is a standalone platform that can integrate to other contact centers. It can integrate to other UCaaS platforms, but it's really driven at, not just, we think about the agentic AI chatbot in the corner. It's not only just that. Maybe it's getting embedded into internal processes and order forms and workflow automation. It is really the concept of creating a platform that can create a 360 view, holding live conversation, holding agentic AI conversation, holding emails, this entire history. So it's the idea of omni-channel. Think about, we've been doing omni-channel contact center for a while, but it's taking that concept and moving it into a platform where all of that data lives. But then it's also building different agents off of that. So one example that you can actually utilize it for is an application tied to it for, we've seen this at Cisco do it at a trade show. You actually order your coffee. So at the big show, NRF show, where you walked up to the Cisco booth, they had a barista, they had a big coffee station, and then an iPad sitting there. And on the iPad, you literally typed in your name, you chose from the menu what you wanted, and it shot that over to the barista, came out as a receipt paper what you wanted, and then they called your name when it was ready. That was all built on Webex Connect on the contact center. It also now stores that journey of me, the customer, what my order was. So now the next time when I will want to interact, I can see that's what my order was, right? So it's about creating that in-store experience, that e-com experience, that phone call experience, that email experience, the agentic AI experience, building it all on one common platform to create a 360 customer experience.
The thing I like about it the most is we were always, integrations aren't new in a customer journey, right? We've been developing those forever.
Yep.
But we've always had to almost create our own middleware a lot of times for that engagement. And it all didn't have, we like to say, like the connective tissue of that customer journey, because this was like standalone middleware. And the CCaaS providers, a lot of them said, whoa, let's create this as a platform to make that easier for people like us or our customers to really help control that 360 journey.
It's not just about the middleware, but it's about creating an environment. In the past, like when you started out, if you talk to somebody about contact center, everything was like, oh, this is the most complex contact center. We're so unique. We're so different. Well, it wasn't the contact center that was unique or different. It was the CRM behind it.
That's
it
exactly
was
right.
the ERP behind it. It was those click to dial. Like, what do I need to integrate it with?
Screen pops.
Correct.
Yep.
So I think that's what's come a long way is those legacy heavyweight tech debt x86 applications living in the customer environment. People have started to go, well, I can just buy SaaS off the shelf. And so it's a lot easier for a CCaaS or CPaaS provider to integrate into these API gateways that will behind the scenes, connect to whatever you want, Salesforce, Workday, Dynamics, you name it.
Yeah, that's so funny, like a little nostalgic here. But, remember, we'd have conversation with the customer, and the contact center really was, what do you want your auto tend to be? How are your hunt groups look? Do you want a round robin or next available?
Yeah.
And what's your reporting? And off you go.
And then when you did do the middleware, do you ever, like, we would put in, I won't say names, but we had certain platforms that we were proficient in. And it was like, at its best, it worked 80%.
That's
like,
right.
there was never a middleware that really connected A to B. It was like, it's better than nothing. But man, is it clunky. Or it was like you had 3 different, applications, agents, heavy clients running to be able to make this all happen. It was a mess. And so
a half-baked integration to like a screen pop or on an SXI call or something like that.
Or it would be like, okay, you can do click to dial, but if you click the dial, it won't show up in the call reporting, logs, because, or it'll look like the application placed the call. There wasn't cradle to grave showing. I mean, it was a mess. And so that platform approach has cleaned up that middleware, wild customization, poor experience.
Yeah. Well, John, on this show, we try to steer away and try to be relatively agnostic. And so far we've done that. But with all that we are doing in this, call it digital workplace space, I mean, you'd already talked about, call it our centralized voice platform or SBC as a service. I can't emphasize enough the power of a true partner that understands everything we've talked about so far. Is that journey from the old world to the new world. You got to have that experience and that knowledge to really take advantage of the power of these platforms.
There's helping understand the different use case. So I talked about how Microsoft is great to be. I live in Microsoft tools all day. Add a phone number.
Yeah.
But what we didn't talk about is, well, what's your license? Are you E3 or are you E5? because that plays a role. That's got to play a role in the decision, because in E5, the voice is included versus an additional license bolt on in E3. So let's understand that makeup. What are the personas in your organization? One of the things I talk about, I think there's a lot of great players in the space. The intellectual property players out there that go direct to the customer, that's a challenge because they're shipping you plastic, and good luck calling a 1-800 call center, getting in line in a queue, and that's it, right?
Yep.
Organizations still need that white glove call tree design, the call flow, the implementation, and then the day two support for not just when you want to make a reset a voicemail password, but when it's not working. I'm having poor call quality. It's choppy. What's going on? That's where you really do need a provider. The other side is, what is your use case for enterprises? I think there's a real value when you look at, I've got a Cisco phone that goes to a Cisco switch through a Cisco router connecting to Cisco's Webex calling with Cisco's Webex Contact Center with Cisco's Webex Connect. Now, all of a sudden, when it doesn't work, guess who I'm calling? Well, CBTS and then Cisco. Yep. So I do think, and by the way, when I talk about hardware, we're about analog gateways. So I've got high density analog lines. Those plug into a Cisco analog gateway. There is a very real value to look at. Cisco's always been the leader in the space. Look at them and say, whoa, they can provide the whole thing soup to nuts. But then there's also a great value in looking at Microsoft and saying, I don't want vendor lock-in. I'm going to use audio codes for my high density analog gateways. I'm going to use Ribbon for my SBCs. I'm going to add on an identity-based, user license for the calling, and I'm going to partner with CBTS for the PSTN for Operator Connect. So there's not a one-size-fits-all, but that's just and then, by the way, I've got Five9 Cloud Contact Center that I can plug in regardless, even if I have an agent that doesn't even use the PBX. That's where I think the bigger value of CBTS is coming in, doing assessments, doing engagements, helping you understand, is your network ready, helping create user personas, and help you identify based off of your use cases, your licensing, your network, your growth strategy, your work from home, work remote, hybrid, all of these things taken into an account. Here's what we think the right design is. And by the way, we can implement it. We can support it.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, even like, how do you make sure that environment is secure? I mean, back in the day, we used to really be concerned with like spoofed registrations that was going to drive up call traffic that would give you a big long distance bill at the end of the day, right? Security is still it has to be top of mind on these deployments.
Yeah. I mean, there's TDOS, right? So the telephony denial of service, which is a very real concern. What is your provider doing to help stop, short duration calls, to start to block that? There's the security aspect that you're talking about of call forking and twinning and being able to PBX hacking, for long distance calls. There's also the element of what is your provider doing around fraudulent calls. So there's protecting the network, right? My voice network, your ability to receive calls. But then what are we doing? There's, the government stir shaken, basically saying, caller ID needs to match. But there's more than that. How do we start to help, these scammers are spoofing caller IDs. They're very good at what they do. So how are we building phone number reputations, right? Looking at, should this be allowed or not? We've got reports that this is spam, but also not block your money calls. So there's actually a delicate balance there. How do we start to look at the sentiment of this and score the call to go, that's probably scam, that's fraud, and keep it out? So there's security that you talk about, and then there's also security of the user, not just the network.
Yeah, no, totally. All right, John. Well, listen, man, we're about at time here. The one thing that's very enlightening in these conversations, one, this stuff is core to our DNA. I think through this conversation, it's certainly core to our DNA, one of our top 5 strategic priorities now and into the future, right? I think I want to reiterate something you said around having that, call it provider, that we understand the heritage, but looking at the needs of our customers' business and saying, okay, we'll do best of breed platform for the needs of your business unit, not a one size fits all. To your point about, the technology makers coming to you and shipping plastic, like that's a very encapsulated platform that doesn't give you a lot of flexibility, right? Where, and it's not just us, but companies like CBTS are coming in and saying, no, let's look at what your business requires, and let's develop a solution like that SBC as a service to bring it all together.
We talked about it on our last tech talk around managed services. Like what has significant, it used to be you bought a product and then you found somebody to manage that one product, right? That world has shifted to you find a trusted managed service partner and then build the platforms, right? We've pre-built our platform and we can plug these different offerings in. Voice is the same way. Like the days of going, what should our PBX be? Those are dead. It's who should our partner be? Because you're going to have 3, 4, 5 different logos that make up your enterprise calling environment, from UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS, multiple CCaaS, multiple UCaaS. Maybe you've got IVR, AI IVRs. Maybe you've got language translation in there. Like you're going to have multiple logos. So stop trying to choose the right OEM. Find the right partner that has this ubiquity, this ability to scale, this ability to customize, and this ability to support. That's the differentiator. We used to, you and I, I started on the phone company side, right?
Yeah.
You started your career on the voice side. And we went through this, choose the voice platform we're reselling. Choose our solution over somebody else's solution. It's a really unique space now because it's not, hey, CBTS is partnered with this solution, you should buy it over that solution. It's you're going to have 7 different solutions. You need a partner like CBTS. So it's just, we're not competing against PBXs anymore. We're competing against the challenge of trying to do it yourself, which is nearly impossible.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, yeah, I don't have anything else to add. That's a great, we could talk about AI for the next 30 minutes related to the CCaaS space, but we won't. We can save that for another day. As always, John, thank you so much for being here. And Lance, thanks for producing once again. And until next time.
See ya.